Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tim Hart, host of the Heartbeat Show podcast and video for today. So today, at the Heartbeat Show podcast, I found, I feel like I made new friends because I listen to them a lot now, and I just met them today for the first time. We have Lauren and Ken from Paradise After Dark podcast. Lauren, Ken, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having
us.
Thank
you.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. They came on in, and you guys, I think you're going to really love this, especially you true crime junkies. Lauren and Ken, if you don't mind, I'd like to set this up for a second.
Sure.
Go for it,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. I was born and raised here in Southwest Florida.
Me too.
You were too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, where'd you go to high school?
Gulf Coast High School
Oh,
in
yeah.
Naples.
Okay, Naples. All right. So I'm Tritons. Go Tritons, man. So I was born and raised here, and I did not know this story. Okay, and so Ken and Lauren are going to fill us in, but I can tell you guys. So this is an unsolved case. 8 skeletons were found in the Fort Myers area. This was what, mid 2000s?
2007.
2007, found skeletons over in the Fort Myers area, like Rockville Road, Arcadia, MLK Boulevard, in that area by 75.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, dude, 8 bodies were found, and it's still unsolved. So we're going to hear about this today. Let's get started. First off, let's talk about your podcast so real quick, because you guys, because you're true crime junkies, this is kind of your wheelhouse.
This is what we do.
And you're here in Southwest Florida.
Well, I'm Lauren,
I'm Ken.
and we're Paradise After Dark.
Dark, dark.
We cover true crime,
Unsolved mysteries,
missing people.
urban legends, and the dark side of the Sunshine State.
The dark side of the Sunshine State.
Yeah, that's
I like
kind
it.
of our unofficial tagline.
Yeah.
The
Oh.
dark side of the
The
Sunshine, State.
Wow, that's really good. We're going to steal it real quick.
Okay.
I do mortgages for the dark side of the Sunshine State, too.
Yeah, that's true. It's a bi-weekly podcast. We release an episode every 2 weeks. But we also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast, where we release weekly off-topic episodes where we just randomly pick a topic. We've talked about the Golden State Killer. We've talked about technology in
Area 51.
crime,
Nice.
Area
Yeah.
51, you
Down
know,
with that.
just
Right.
whatever. That's very laid back. And then also on Patreon, once a month, we do a vacation edition where we go outside of Florida and cover a case. Like we just did the Yosemite Park murders. That was our most recent vacation edition episode. So
Gotcha.
we're very busy.
Good.
So
Well, they do a great job. So you guys check it out, you true crime junkies out there. My wife, check it out, subscribe. But let's get to it. You ready?
Alrighty.
So why don't you guys you did some research on this. You had your podcast already. I highly recommend it. We'll put the link in the show.
Okay.
So let's start with maybe the beginning of how these bodies were found.
Well, I guess it started out, it was a phone call. A lady had stumbled upon them.
an ecologist who was surveying the land for land development
Yeah.
stumbled upon these just 8 skeletons, and they were all just like laid out in a line, like a perfect line, and called 911. This was on March 23rd, 2007.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so it's not too long ago.
I know, man. That's what's
So-
crazy.
it's funny because when the 911 call came in, Detective Soto, I believe, was the lead investigator on it, didn't really think it was anything because that area was known for people throwing like pig carcasses and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't expecting
Human remains.
human remains, let alone 8 full skeletons to be found.
Right.
It was kind of like, oh, wow, you know, what?
And they found these skeletons, and then they were all within like 50 yards, right,
Yes.
of
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's pretty crazy right there, just to find 8 skeletons in Fort Myers over by Rockville Road. That's I looked it up on the map. I'm like, dude, there's houses everywhere. There's like the baseball facilities over there. It's right by
Yeah.
75.
Yeah.
Wait, I've actually never been to that area of Fort Myers, so I didn't know that when we were doing this case.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff around there. It's
Yeah.
Not, it's not like,
Well, the thing of it is they estimate that the bodies had been dumped there anywhere between 1980 and the year 2000.
okay.
So they were found in 2007, so they were completely decomposed. It's not like anybody would smell anything or see anything. They were kind of well hidden under, a thicket or whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's what got my attention, because when we researched it and figured all this out, because we do like a lot of writing, we go out in the woods, a lot of hunters, and it's like, how could this not have been found for over 20 some years?
Yeah, especially with them decaying, not to get gross, but like, decaying and everything else. Like you would figure vultures and buzzards and all that stuff, like someone would, find them.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so but that opened up an investigation.
Right.
Right. And so, which is still open?
It's still open.
It's still open, yeah.
Yep.
I guess for all of them, but some have been identified.
Yeah.
Some still have not been.
A couple have been identified.
There was 3 of them, right? They were identified?
3 of the bodies have been identified.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but they had to get in they called, was it FGCU?
They called
one of the scientists at FGCU to come in.
Listening to y'all's podcast, it was like she had done.
Heather Walsh Haney from FGCU came in.
She sounds like she's perfect for the job.
Well,
Heather Walsh Haney.
And she had actually been involved with the Value Jet crash. I don't know if you remember that? The one in the Everglades, yeah. In recovering the remains from that crash. And then also, she was involved in the September 11th attacks, recovering remains. Up in New York City, yes.
So she works at FGCU?
Yeah. So she's not a rookie. I mean, she's like the creme de la creme of this type of work.
Okay. So you got the pro in.
They brought her in, and I guess they surrounded the whole place, roped it all off, and it was, like I said in the podcast, kind of like an archaeological dig. They called it an archaeological dig where they came in and literally just started going real slow to try to find everything. Because if you find 8 bodies, it's like, okay, how many more?
Right.
Because they didn't just find 8 right away. They had to find out exactly how many were there. I think they originally thought 5, and then discovered there was 8.
And when all was said and done, they said they recovered approximately 90% of each skeleton, which is amazing. If you imagine if they had been there as far back as 1980,
right?
You'd think that they'd, be scattered animals, everything, but they got about 90% of each skeleton.
I wonder how far out you go, too, before you're like, okay, we quit. Like,
yeah.
How far wide you go?
I guess they went pretty far.
200 yards was the actual...
That is far.
Yeah, well, that's 2 football fields, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Like the whole way around, right?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a lot.
So, well, I mean, like I said, okay, well, we've got them here. Where are all these at? So, and I guess she was able to find, like we said, 8, 90% of the bodies.
Yep.
And then she started putting them together.
Now, from listening to you guys' podcast, it was all these people end up being killed between, they think, 87 and 2001. So with the investigation, then that started, right? So we have 8 bodies. Now let's find out what happened, who did it, that type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so, do you guys mind picking up with that? Because I know there was a funeral home, right? They maybe thought it was one of those type of deals for a second.
Well, the very first theory was that it was a funeral home dump, because not long before this came about in Georgia, there was a huge controversy because there was a funeral home who was supposed to be cremating and burying bodies, but instead were kind of like burying them on the property and hiding them in a shed behind the funeral home.
They found them everywhere.
It was awful. The search at that funeral home ultimately recovered 339 bodies.
In Georgia, so they just found them all across the property?
All across the property in the...
Anywhere they could stick them, they would stick them, because they claimed the oven wasn't working or something had broken. Yeah, the crematorium incinerator was broken.
Yeah, the crematorium was broken, that's right.
So here they were collecting the monies to get, these people cremated, and they're like, well, it's broken, so we're just going to stash them somewhere.
Was there what the hell were they thinking, like in the end, they're like, we'll go back and get them done?
I guess, I'm not sure.
Hiding like they were Christmas presents, like they were Santa's.
So they assumed,
we found our presents.
So they assumed because that happened there that, well, maybe that's what this is. It's some kind of dump. Maybe then. So of course, there's a huge investigation to a lot of the funeral homes in town. I'm sure a lot of records were pulled there to confirm, hey, you guys doing what you're supposed to do. So that investigation kind of started with that aspect, correct?
Yeah, that was the first theory, but because there was nothing found with the bodies, no clothing, no personal items, it was just straight skeletons, meaning that they were probably naked when they were dumped. Mm-hmm. So that kind of led away from maybe a funeral home dump, because at the actual funeral home dump, there were clothes, jewelry, things like that found with the bodies.
Right, like they're dressed to be buried, and their suits or whatever
exactly.
else. So in this site, though, just straight naked bodies and no equipment, nothing like that out there.
Right.
Yeah, and they're in that archaeological dig we spoke of, they found nothing.
Nothing.
Just bones.
No rings, no nothing.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's very strange.
So then the funeral home thing got X'd out, right?
Yep.
No longer a hot one.
So they kind of bounced around with some different theories of maybe like a mass suicide or Bermuda Triangle.
What would have been the Bermuda Triangle angle?
Well, when you're an
I almost
investigator,
said Bermuda Triangle angle there.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I
that was
mean,
hard.
well, I mean, when
a
you're an
mob
investigator,
hit
you just
out of
reaching
Tampa,
for straws.
that was one of them.
A what?
A mob hit out of Tampa.
Okay.
That was one theory of who they were. What else was there?
But what would have been the Bermuda Triangle like story? What would they?
Well, when you're an investigator, you get hit with this. You got 8 bodies.
I'll
You got
tell
8
you.
investigations. You're trying to figure out what are we gonna. Well, maybe it was this.
Detective-
I think it was probably just a water cooler kind of joke. But yeah, it was.
Well,
actually,
okay.
it was actually put on paper. That
Because
Detective
I would have thrown out
Soto.
Skunk Ape. If they would have been Bermuda Triangle, I would have thrown out Skunk Ape maybe.
yeah.
Oh, we have an episode on Skunk Ape.
No, you
by the way.
don't.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we
do.
do.
Oh, I'm there. Oh, don't get me going on Skunk Ape.
No, Detective Soto told NBC2 News that they've heard everything, people believing it was a plane that went missing from the Bermuda Triangle. That's
Okay.
where that came from. So the detective actually told the news that.
Cool. Whatever. I like it. Give it a try.
At
Yeah.
one point, they thought it was like a mass suicide where they all
Like
either
the
drank,
Kool-Aid. Like
Yeah.
drank Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
or they were waiting for spaceships or whatever that thing is.
Right.
But the most prevalent theory that was actually the most upsetting to the Fort Myers residents was that it was the work of a serial killer.
Correct.
So, but then they came out and said, well, if it's the work of a serial killer, you don't need to be worried because whatever happened here happened a long time ago.
Yeah, because that'd make me feel better.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, good. You
Yeah.
couldn't rekindle the old spirit and go kill anybody. You know? It's been a while since I killed somebody. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and do it again.
Going along the serial killer aspect, there was one specific serial killer who was actually active in Fort Myers in the early 90s. His name was Daniel Conahan. Ken calls him the pickle poacher, and you'll see why when I tell
Okay.
you. Okay, so he,
Daniel Conahan, a.k.a. Ken calls him the
Pickle poacher.
Okay.
yes, but his official serial killer moniker was the Hog Trail Killer.
The Hog Trail Killer.
Because most of his victims were found on these hog trails very close to where these 8 skeletons were found.
His people were found the same area, right?
Yes.
Same scenario. Everything was exactly the same. The closest one within 1 mile, I believe. The one that one that they knew was pretty much him. They found within 1 mile, so they were trying to figure. Was it about 1 mile?
Yes.
Yeah, within 1 mile they found it, but of course he kind of spread them out a little bit. But
So how did he get caught? Like, that's an interesting story.
Well, one of his victims, Richard Montgomery, he came to Richard Montgomery and told him that he would pay him to take photos, nude photos, and he'd pay him. And Montgomery was kind of a drifter. I don't know that he was actually homeless, but he's, down on his luck. So he agrees that he'll go into the woods with this guy and let him take naked pictures. Well, he ended up raping and killing him.
Daniel Conahan raped and killed him. So he would tell the guy, I want to take naked pictures of you.
yeah, he wanted
Yes.
to tie him up to a tree and just they sort of work his way up to it.
Bondage type photos.
Bondage type photos and everything. Just
He ended
kinda,
up tying him to the tree. Once he was tied to the tree, he raped him and then ultimately killed him.
Okay.
And
to prevent there being any DNA.
he
Took off his manhood.
removed the genitals.
Hence Ken's nickname of
Pickle
the Pickle
Poacher.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
There we go.
There's a payoff. There was a payoff
Yeah.
with the Pickle
Well,
Poacher joke.
but that was actually.
It's so awful.
but it's documented on
shouldn't laugh.
other cases too.
No, there were other cases. On February 4th of 1994, the mutilated corpse of a man was discovered in Punta Gorda. The body had been out for over a month and had rope burns on the skin, and the genitalia was also missing.
Okay.
So the same with Richard Montgomery. I don't think we mentioned that, but he had been tied up, and he had the rope burns as well on his body. So it's almost the exact same MO in this situation. And then on January 1st, 1996, in Northport, a family's dog brought home bone and led to the discovery of another body which had the same, it was more decomposed, it was skeletonized, but somehow they were able to tell that the genitals had been removed. And I think we posed that question in our episode as to how if it was skeletonized, how they would be able to tell the genitals had been removed, and we still don't have an answer to that. So
I think it was damage to the bones in that area.
if there's a medical examiner listening or watching, hit us up, let us know.
Yeah, fill them in. I was wondering, like, how do you tell from a skeleton? Like,
But in the reports, it said that that it was apparent that the genitals had been removed. So that's 3 with the exact same MO, and they were only able to convict him on Montgomery because they didn't have enough evidence for the other ones, but they're 100% sure he's responsible.
But he ended up getting caught, right? Because like one guy got away.
Right. Another skull was found in Charlotte County on April 17th, 1996. And when police searched the woods, they found the rest of that body as well. So now we have 4.
4.
The second body was identified as John William Millargno.
Okay.
The first body was later identified as Kenneth Lee Smith. So 2 of those bodies were identified.
So there's 4 total you think he did, but 2 of them got identified.
So basically let's
get him tied to this. Let's convict him today.
Other murders with very similar circumstances to the 8 bodies that were found in Fort Myers in 2007. And Daniel Conahan was convicted, sentenced to life, and there's just because they're skeletonized, there's no physical evidence, there's really nothing to tie anyone, really. Unless somebody knows, I'd venture to say there's really no, forensic evidence at this point. If they've been out there for so long in the elements, they did get DNA. They did get DNA from the skeletons, and 3 of them have been identified.
3 were originally identified. I think 1 recently was identified.
So possibly 4 have been identified.
Yeah, 4 identified.
Okay.
Yeah, to correct myself earlier, it was 4.
4.
1 was real recent. After she did we'll get into that later.
One thing
rebuilds.
that connects Daniel Conahan's killings to these skeletons is the few of his victims that were identified as like the drifter type,
right.
Homeless type, and the ones of the Fort Myers 8 who have been identified were also in that category of drifter kind of, they weren't even reported missing, some of them.
Yeah,
because
in and out of jail, drug addictions, that kind of thing, where, if you're into drugs and you need a couple bucks and guys offering to take some pictures and give you some money, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I saw one story where it was like the guy, one of the victims, the parents had said, we hadn't heard from him in a long time, but we never, called in a missing report because he was always kind of missing or gone or whatever.
Right. And that's kind
those
of
type of people is what they found.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? They can tell like by bones, like who that or what kind of life they led.
Well, a lot of it I think is dental care. The teeth, if there's no, they can tell if they haven't seen a dentist or not. I know that comes into play more often than you would think. The dental care when it comes to identifying, because we do a lot of looking at unidentified. I follow a couple pages on Facebook about Florida unidentified, and they always put that in there. They had good dental care or no dental care. So it's kind of it's a
I need to get my teeth cleaned
to
more
a
often just in
lifestyle.
case.
Just in case.
I don't want to go out and they'll be like, this dude's a bum.
Let me tell you, if they ever found me, they would totally identify me.
It is true, though. They will. I mean, a lot of times that's how they will sort of identify, okay, what type of person it is. And, of course, they can find a lot out with your teeth, whether in some cases it's obviously your race. They can tell really easy if it's just they find the skull. They can tell your nationality. There's a lot of different things.
Yeah, because of, the skull, the way the
bone,
skull is
the bone
shaped.
structure.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So when they have the whole skull, they got the teeth. I mean, there's a lot to it than just the teeth itself. But now with Conahan, he was arrested on...
Well, in May of 1996, somebody that he tried to abduct and kill
Right.
escaped. So, and that's how he was caught, finally.
Yeah, because up till now, obviously with the other ones, he was never caught, or this was never pinned to him.
Yeah, but like that dude's story, and correct me if I'm wrong here. So this guy was abducted by Conahan, manages to break out from whatever he was tied down to, steals Conahan's vehicle.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Gets pulled over, gets arrested for stealing his vehicle, and has to tell these guys, right? Like,
I believe he was also nude. when he
When he stole
when
the
he
car?
stole the car. Yeah. So he gets pulled over in a stolen car naked, and he has to try to explain to police, "Hey, I was abducted." And of course, they're not going to believe him.
Right.
But they eventually did believe him, and he led him back to Conahan, and that's how he was arrested.
Imagine having to retell that story
Yeah.
to the cops. Like,
Yeah, I
butt
walked off
naked.
in the woods with this guy who was going to take some pictures of me and give me some money, and it went south, and here I am.
He tried to kill me, stole his car. He's like, "Stop me if you heard this from before. I know you was all the time."
Oh my gosh.
Holy cow! So
He did get pulled over, obviously, and they told the story. So eventually they did follow up on the story
okay.
and led back to Conahan, and he got arrested.
Yeah.
And then that's where he got pinned with that one murder.
So what makes this situation, the guy that got away, his name was Stanley Burden,
Burden.
where he was attacked was less than a mile from where the Fort Myers 8 were found. So all of this happened in like a 2-mile radius. All of these hog trail killings and the Fort Myers 8 were all in this little tiny area. So it kind of ties in with Conahan along with the timeline and when they believe the bodies were dumped. And he's considered a very likely suspect for these victims, but unfortunately, like I think I mentioned, there's just nothing to tie him to these 8 people.
As well,
And the
so.
time frame adds up. The victimology adds up. It's all circumstantial, but I'd say it's probably Daniel Conahan if I had to put money on it. So
I mean, it just sounds like it would fit him perfectly, but
Yeah.
there's no evidence
right
besides
now,
us
there's
looking
no
at it.
evidence to tie him to those, unless he confesses or somebody knows something and comes forward.
And sadly, he's not one of those killers that wants numbers, so he's not going to come forward and say, "Oh, I did it," because a lot of times serial killers tend to want to add to-
Notoriety.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They want to add their
Yeah.
numbers. They want bigger numbers than.
But no, he denied
He's
it.
a humble serial killer.
He's very
Apparently
humble.
so, yeah.
Huh. Unique.
Unique.
Is that
Unique
like
for
that? Is that
sure.
kind of unique for a serial killer to be humble?
Pretty much,
Wow.
Do you watch Mindhunter?
No.
Oh, well, you should.
you should.
Okay. We'll watch Mindhunter out there. I'll check it out too.
They did finish up. They brought in a lady who reconstructed all the skulls, correct?
Yeah, she.
Just real quick before we lead into the,
Uh,
because you can identify them by going to the website.
Oh, they have the facial reconstruction.
Yeah, what the lady did, they brought a lady in, and she went ahead and did that facial reconstruction on the skeletons to give them sort of a look. And one of the things that she said on our clip on our show was when they do that, they rebuild it to be identical. They try to get the eye sockets. They put different eye colors in, and then they use like short hair, long hair from different angles, different sides. And I believe they've posted that. So if you want to try to go and look.
We've posted it on our social medias, so you could find it there, or you can just Google it, and
But yeah,
I'm sure it'll pop up.
The faces have been, and that's how they identified 3 of those. 3 of the
Okay.
people that were there.
We can kind of wrap this up. So, like, if anyone, basically, what should people do? I mean, on the, you never know, right?
Yeah.
What people see or hear, but
that's
like,
why we do this.
if they do know something or have information, what should that person do?
I would say the first thing you should do is call Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers. Go from there. Yeah,
Well,
if you
obviously,
remember
Fort Myers Police Department,
anything
or Lee County
from
Sheriff's Office.
early 90s, if you know of anyone who's missing, there's a lab in Texas that has all the DNA of all the skeletons, and that's part of how they've identified. There's family members all over the country that submit their own DNA, and they're doing so much with familial DNA now.
Wow.
We could do a whole other episode on that. So they're working with DNA. So if you have a missing family member or know someone who went missing in the late 80s, early 90s, maybe have their family figure out how to get their DNA in the database to try and identify, at least identify them. I think that's the saddest part, is that these people have been in the woods for possibly up to 20 years and no one's missing them, or someone's probably missing them and they're nameless.
And that's the sad part, is a lot of times when people go missing, people are constantly looking for them and looking for answers. But if there's no
I mean,
connection,
it could be
you
somebody
can't
in North Dakota that
So we
has
gotta
no
kinda
idea what happened to their brother.
need help
or,
putting people together.
Yeah, right. And for the family,
Bring
just
closure,
the closure of it, man.
Right.
Like, okay, we can. This is what happened, or this
Well,
is.
a couple of things we always say is, or obviously if you see something, say something. But one of the other things is with the victims when something happens like this to somebody. So if there's a person missing or there's a murder, there's a lot more victims than just a person that's gone. So
Right.
The family, everybody is victimized by this stuff. So
Gotcha.
something like this, bringing that back together is always a good thing.
Cool. That was fun. You guys, I mean, fun, like interesting. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure people out there, they watch the whole thing if they're from here, and if they didn't know about this, like, holy cow, like, you know, that's a lot of information. And Fort Myers 8, and so hopefully something comes of it. And you guys at Paradise After Dark podcast, I want to encourage you guys, if you listen to podcasts, one, better subscribe to mine if you're watching this on our stuff. But also give them a subscribe. And where are you guys at? Where's your podcast at?
you can find us on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And we also have a website, paradiseafterdark.com, where you can actually listen to our latest episodes. You get linked to our Etsy store and Patreon and everything else.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming. They do an awesome job with podcasts. They got Lords of Chaos. They have an episode on that one. Listen to a Redneck Yacht Club one. So you guys cover some cool stuff, and it's local. So I appreciate it. As a podcaster, like, there's not a lot of Southwest Florida podcasts going on. I got to check out your Florida Men guys, too.
Oh, they're
guys are
funny. They're funny.
I'll check them out.
They're
Well,
great.
I appreciate it. So you guys out there got any information, let people know about it. And if I ever help you out, give me a holler. Always here to help. 239-437-4278. If you have any mortgage needs, call me up. I'm here for you guys. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. See you guys. Take care.